Hey everybody, it is Chris, and today I'm going to be talking about a wizard build that I am currently playing. And I played this build for a couple months in some successive one shots that were in tier 3. And then I am playing the build at a much lower level and in an existing campaign, a long term campaign. And the idea is that it's the same character, but much younger. So it's kind of an origin story for the character, I suppose. But I want to show the build plan for you guys to show how a wizard would be built using the 2024 rules, in my opinion, as well as I've discussed before that I think that the wizard is still the most powerful class in the 2024 rules. And I know a lot of people think that maybe the sorcerer is the most powerful or the bard is the most powerful, and I totally understand the reasoning behind that. So I'm going to explain why I think the wizard is still the most powerful as I go through this build. And, I welcome disagreement. So if you disagree, by all means, tell me down below, but maybe hear me out first. If you think some of my arguments don't hold a lot of water, by all means, call me out on that. But what I've decided to do is rather than just share my existing character sheet, because I have some magic items and I have some additional spells from spell books and stuff like that, so I don't know if it really shows how it was built. I'm going to actually build the character again, and we'll level it up here on the video. And I'll be using D&D Beyond for that, because D&D Beyond is a easy way to build a character. So we are going to begin with Wizard 2024, and for this build, I'm just going to use the 2024 rules. I'll mention a couple things about what I would do if I'm accessing previous source books, but I am assuming that at least for the player's handbook, you're using the 2024 version for regards to this build. Not that there's a huge amount of difference between the 2014 and 2024 wizards, but I have talked so much about the 2014 wizards that if you are hungry for information on how to build a 2014 wizard, you are on the right channel. But just go back a few years, and I have a plethora of videos on that. Okay, so we're going to start with level 1, and I'm going to level it up, and I think I'm going to go to tier 3, and then I'll just kind of talk a little bit about what would happen after that. But to begin with, obviously we're going to start with wizard. Well, actually, that's not obvious because I often dip with wizards. I'll do like an armor dip. But in this case, I will also do an armor dip, but not at level 1. So we're going to start at level 1 with wizard. And then what we're going to do is we are going to take a background. And what I would recommend with your background is, and obviously some people customize backgrounds, others use them as they're printed in the 2024 Player's Handbook, and it doesn't matter which one you want to do whichever you want. But if you are customizing your background, I would just recommend and I'm going to refer to my notes here, but I would recommend pick up Lucky or Alert as your origin feat. And then with ability scores, you want Intelligence +2 and probably Constitution +1. Though Dexterity +1 works just as well. But in terms of this character, I'll just use the official backgrounds as they're presented, and Criminal works for us. So Criminal does what we need to do. It gives us Stealth and Sleight of Hand, which is fine. Thieves' Tools, which is fine. It gives us the Alert feat, which is a feat that we wanted on this character. And we can select Intelligence +2 and Constitution +1. So that's what I'll do here. All right, so that's our background. Now we'll talk about ability score, so we'll switch to that. And I will be using point buy for this. And basically, we are going to dump our strength. So it'll be an 8 strength. Surprise, surprise. Dexterity, we'll bring it up to a 14. And then intelligence, we want that at 17. And then wisdom, we want at 13. And constitution, we're going to get to 14. And charisma, I'm going to raise to 9 because we got a point left over. So there's our starting ability scores: 8 strength, 14 dexterity, 14 constitution, 17 intelligence, 13 wisdom, 9 charisma. So for species, this is going to be human. And what I've done with my character is, like I said, I did one shots where he was tier 3, and then this is supposed to be like an origin story. So I'm actually playing him as a child. So I selected small size, but then with the tier 3, I had medium size. It doesn't matter. Choose whatever size you want. It used to matter with wizards because of the way spells like Dimension Door worked, but they've revised them so that it's not a concern anymore. So small or medium, whichever you like. And then for skillful, we're going to get additional skill. And I am taking investigation because investigation is an intelligence-based skill. There's not a lot of intelligence-based classes, right? So you've got wizard, you've got artificer if you're using it, and that's basically it. So when it comes to intelligence-based skills, I think we should take them. And investigation is one that comes up a lot. Then we get versatile, and this is going to give us an origin feat. And like I said, I wanted alert and lucky on this character. Already got alert, so we'll take lucky. So now we're going to have lucky and alert. One thing that's nice is if we really want to win initiative, we can use lucky to get advantage on the initiative check, as well as get the alert bonus. And then, of course, lucky is also useful for saving throws when you need advantage. And then languages, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to go ahead and take the common sign language because it's new and it's a way you can communicate with your allies without any kind of sound. So I think that's pretty useful. I think I'll be taking that a lot on characters. And then just pick something else. Okay? So that's the species. And now we'll go back to class. So we're going to need 2 skill proficiencies. And I am recommending Arcana and any other intelligence-based skill that you like here. And medicine is wisdom-based, so I wouldn't recommend that one. And insight is also wisdom-based, so I'd go either history, nature, or religion. I'll just throw religion in here, but whichever you prefer is fine. It's actually useful. What I would recommend is find out what other people in your party have and take something they don't have. Okay, and then we are going to get Wizard Spellcasting. We're going to get Ritual Adept, and we're going to get Arcane Recovery. So here's, let's see, we got the Ritual Adept is incredibly important to wizards. You can cast any spell as a ritual that has the ritual tag, and the spell is in your spellbook. That means we do not need to prepare a ritual in order to be able to cast it, as long as we cast it as a ritual, which is usually what you do with rituals, because if you cast it as a ritual, you don't expend a spell slot. So you needn't have the spell prepared, but you must read from the book to cast a spell this way. Okay? So Ritual Adept, very good feature. And then Arcane Recovery, we can regain some of our magical energy by studying our spellbook. When we finish a short rest, we can choose an expended spell slots to recover. Spell slots can have a combined level equal to no more than half your wizard level rounded up, and none of the slots can be level 6 or higher. And what I usually do with this is, when the short rest occurs, I take a look at my level 1 slots. If I've been casting Shield over and over and over again, and I've run out of level 1 slots, then Arcane Recovery is going to recover first level slots and more than one of them. If I still have most of my first level slots, then I usually go for my highest level spell slot. Okay, so for selecting spells at level 1, with a wizard, first off we're going to select 3 cantrips, and I recommend, so Acid Splash gives a ranged saving throw attack cantrip, basically. And it does d6s, but you can technically affect 4 squares with it. So, in theory, you could actually hit 4 enemies with it. I would expect that probably won't happen very often, but it's probably worth casting if you can get 2 enemies with it. The next one that I would take is Mage Hand. Mage Hand is basically like short range, minor telekinesis. That's what it is. And then I would recommend our primary attack, and our primary attack cantrip is going to be True Strike. So True Strike, if you are unfamiliar, what it does is it allows us to attack with a weapon. We can use our intelligence modifier for the attack and damage roll. The damage type changes to radiant, and we get scaling damage. At level 5, it'll be an extra d6, then 2d6, then 3d6. And True Strike should outdamage any other ranged cantrip at level 1. All we have to do is we'll take a light crossbow, and wizards are proficient with light crossbows now, so that's a d8 damage, and then we're going to add our intelligence modifier, so it's a d8 plus 3 at level 1. That outdamages any other wizard cantrip that you can get at this point. Furthermore, True Strike will continue to outdamage other cantrips as we go up in level. Eventually, what it would be is it's a d8 plus 3d6 plus 5. And that's basically going to be pretty close to equal to a Firebolt, and that's as close as Firebolt will come, and that's not until tier 4. So True Strike is just a great thing for us to take as an attack cantrip at this point. Now, one thing to note is that once we, we're going to be using a light crossbow at level 1, this character will eventually have a shield. We will not be using a light crossbow after we have a shield, and I'll talk about that when we get there. Now we get to put 6 spells in our spellbook, and 6 level 1 wizard spells, and we'll be able to prepare 4 of them. However, we're only going to have 2 spell slots, and then 1 additional after a short rest. So probably 3 spell slots for a day. So, you can have 4 spells, but you won't be casting all of them. This is what I recommend at level 1. So I am recommending Comprehend Languages, which is a ritual, Detect Magic, which is a ritual, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which had a huge improvement in 2024. And the huge improvement is right here. The old version did not upcast, the new version does, and it's a very, very nice upcast. We select 1 additional creature for each upcast level. That means that Tasha's Hideous Laughter will continue to be a good spell at higher levels. And surprise, surprise, I'm going to take the shield spell. And those are the 4 spells I'm actually going to prepare, and then I will also take Find Familiar and Identify. And the reason why I am preparing some spells that are rituals is because I have more preparations than I need at this level. I only really need to prepare 2 spells, but I have 4 preparations, so I might as well prepare 4 of them. So yeah, we're going to prepare Comprehend Languages, Detect Magic, Shield, and Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Find Familiar, there's no point in preparing because it's taken you an hour to cast it in the first place, so the extra 10 minutes is no big deal. Comprehend Languages and Detect Magic, maybe you need to cast them in a round. So we will not end up having more preparations than we need. That this is a very short-term situation. So this is our character at level 1, and this is how I would play it. First off, you might notice the armor class is 12. That's terrible. We don't have mage armor, so I would stay as far from melee as possible. We do have the shield spell. We can get it up to 17, which is okay, but I would just stay as far from melee as possible. We don't have a lot of hit points, and we don't have a good armor class. What I would do is in combat, I would use my light crossbow, cast True Strike, and give range support for damage. Then we also have 3 first level spells we can cast, and assuming we get a short rest. Shield as you need, otherwise Tasha's Hideous Laughter is the big play. And I would definitely be casting that on the biggest, baddest enemy in a combat. And the main thing we're going to be doing is providing utility out of combat through our intelligence-based skills, rituals, and we're going to have a familiar, and we're going to do scouting with the familiar. I actually have talked for whole videos on what you can do with familiars, but one of the most important things you can do is scout with them. So let's go back to manage, and we're now going to add another level, and now we will multi-class. And I will be doing a multi-class I never do with Wizard, and that is Ranger. Ranger actually makes a great dip for Wizards now, as an armor dip. So what we're going to get is we get an additional skill proficiency, and we can take Perception. Perception is a skill I like to have on characters, so that's nice. And then we are going to get Weapon Mastery. And I am not going to take Light Crossbow because I'm going to, now that I'm a Ranger, I'm going to get Light, Medium Armor, and Shields. So what I will be doing is I'll be switching to Medium Armor and Shield right away. If you don't have a lot of money, scale mail and shield doesn't cost very much, and that gets us all the way up to armor class 18 before shield. And eventually you can get half plate, and that'll get you to 19 plus shield. We also have proficiency in all martial weapons at this point. But the important thing is with our armor class boosted so much, we don't need to be as scared of melee anymore. I wouldn't be rushing into melee, but if I end up in melee, it's not something that, is a huge problem for me with this character. So what I am going to be doing is with one of my weapons for weapon mastery, I'm going to take Warhammer. So what I can do is, if I have somebody come up to me and I'm in melee, I can use my action. I can cast True Strike. I can hit with a Warhammer using my intelligence. And if I hit, in addition to doing Warhammer damage plus intelligence plus d6s as I level up, I will also get the push mastery on top of it. And this also might be something I might do once I start getting status effects. So I'm going to get spells like Web, for example. And, a creature is next to the web. I could run up to them and hit him with the Warhammer, do damage, push him into the web. Okay, so a decent weapon for me to have. And then I also want to grab Javelin. And Javelin, the advantage of Javelin is I can use it for ranged attacks when I have a shield, which I will have, right? So we're going to have some Javelins, throw them, and then we do the d6 damage from the Javelin plus extra True Strike damage, and we're going to slow our enemy. So if we think about what we'd be doing other than True Strike, we think about cantrips, and or we think about just cantrips, not weapon cantrips. And either the cantrip just does damage, like Firebolt, or it does damage and something else. So a lot of people would choose something like Ray of Frost because we can slow our enemy by 10 feet if we hit them with a Ray of Frost. Well, Javelin will do the same thing for us and do significantly more damage. Speaking of attacking with weapons, we also get the Hunter's Mark spell prepared for free, and we can cast it for free twice per day. This is not something I'm likely going to use at higher levels at all. But here at level 2, if I go into combat and I'm not going to use my Tasha's Hideous Laughter, or maybe I use it and they make their saving throw, or I use it and it works, but later on they make their saving throw, and now my concentration is free, why wouldn't I? Throw up a Hunter's Mark, then do my Warhammer attack or Javelin attack, and get an additional d6 damage. Why not? I will also get 2 spell preparations with this character. And I would first off probably take Jump. Jump is a great spell now in the 2024 rules. Bonus action to cast, and basically it's like 20 feet of extra movement. Plus, you can do vertical movement if you need to. So yeah, very, very good spell now. And the second one I would take is probably either Cure Wounds or Goodberry. And it depends on, they both are healing spells, and it depends on the kind of healing you want to do. Goodberry will actually heal, it'll drain up your lower level spell slots. It has a long duration, so, you can sometimes cast it the day before and build up some good berries. On the other hand, Cure Wounds is much better than it was in 2024. Basically, you're doubling the number of d8s, and it upcasts really well. So if you want, healing that would work really well in combat, Cure Wounds is your better choice. If we're talking about just building up hit points between combats, Goodberry is probably a better choice. Now, officially speaking, Goodberry cannot be fed to somebody who is unconscious. So if somebody goes down in combat and you have good berries, by the rules, there's nothing that they do for you. But you might want to talk to your DM, because a lot of DMs will allow you to feed a good berry to an unconscious ally to give them a hit point, in which case this becomes a much better spell for combat as well. So I'm going to take Cure Wounds on this, but like I said, you might want to take Goodberry instead. And there's one more thing we're going to do, is we're going to go back to Wizard, and we are going to go back to our adding of spells, and Wizards now have a thing where after a long rest, they can change a cantrip. It wasn't always that way, but now you can. So what I would recommend at this point is, if we're throwing javelins, they have a short range of 30 feet. They have a long range of 120 feet, but you would have disadvantage if you're attacking at long range. So for now, and that won't last, but for now, what I would do is I get rid of Acid Splash, and I'd pick up Firebolt because Firebolt has a 120-foot range. So if I am a long way from combat, now, like I said, with the medium armor and shield, we can get to 30 feet and we don't need to worry about it. But sometimes you need the long range attack, and then Firebolt will give us that. Now, I should say, if you want to take a dip in Cleric or a dip in Druid, they'll do the job. I mean, the main reason we're dipping isn't for weapon mastery. It's not for free Hunter's Mark. The reason we're dipping is because we want medium armor and shield proficiency, and because we want to advance our spell slot progression by 1 level while getting those. And Cleric and Druid both achieve that, as well as Ranger. So at level 2, we now have 3 first level spell slots, 4 after a short rest, and we now have an armor class of 18. And technically speaking, we have 2 free castings of Hunter's Mark. We may use them, we may not use them, and it doesn't matter. I wouldn't worry too much about the Hunter's Mark. It's there if it's available. So if you make an attack and you have your bonus action and you're not concentrating, then use it. And I just looking at my notes here, I said to stay back from melee, but there's no reason to be as cautious as first level. We have a much, much better defense now. We can absolutely step up and use the Warhammer, or if we get caught in melee, feel free to use the Warhammer. That push will get you out of melee. And if we are hitting with the Warhammer, that's a D8 plus 3 plus the push. And if we are using the Javelin, it's a D6 plus 3 plus slow. And that's probably better than any other cantrip at this level, and we can do both while holding a shield. Now, the one thing I will mention is that we do not have Warcaster on this character yet. And that means if we are holding a Warhammer and a shield, then technically speaking, when it's not our turn, we will not be able to cast the shield spell. So we want to make sure that Warhammer is not in our hand at the end of the turn. So if drawing the Warhammer needs to be part of your action, and then you should be able to use your interaction to put it away. But if for some reason you're using your interaction for something else and you can't do that, then you probably shouldn't do the Warhammer at all. Though talk to your DMs, because some DMs are, they are not interested in tracking components at all. So we're going to go back, and the rest of the levels will be straight Wizard. So going up to Wizard level 2, what do we get? We're going to get Scholar. So let's go here to Scholar. So this is going to give us an expertise, and it says here we can choose Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, or Religion. Just note, D&D Beyond would allow you to select Perception, but that's a mistake. We cannot select Perception. We can, however, select Arcana. I just think that is appropriate for a wizard, but if you want a different skill, go ahead. And we're going to select 2 spells. So we're going to add spells here, and we're going to select Longstrider, which is a great upcast spell. It's a good spell anyway. It's a long duration, no concentration, gives you 10 feet of extra movement, and it can be cast on somebody else. And if we upcast it, we can select multiple creatures with it. The other one we're going to select is Unseen Servant. Unseen Servant is a ritual, and it can be handy because it actually has a long duration with no concentration as well, meaning we can have our Unseen Servant move around with us, and in combat, that might just be a little bit of extra action economy. And never mind the utility, it is significantly more flexible than Mage Hand in terms of what it can do. Now, I should mention, if you really want to do damage, if damage is your focus, Witchbolt is a consideration. Witchbolt is a lot better than it used to be, because if you miss with the initial attack, you can still do the follow-up damage. So prepared spells, we've got our Firebolt, our Mage Hand, our True Strike, Comprehend Languages, and Detect Magic, because we still have more preparations than we need. Find Familiar and Identify are available as rituals. Then we have Longstrider, Shield, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Unseen Servant, Cure Wounds, Jump, and Hunter's Mark. So we're level 3 Wizard, and I am going to be selecting the Illusionist subclass. This is the one that got the majority of the changes in the 2024 Player's Handbook, and the changes are for the good. Definitely the Illusionist looks better than it ever has before. And we're going to begin with Illusion Savant. The Savant features for all of the Wizard subclasses are great. It says, choose 2 Wizard spells. In our case, it'll be from the Illusion School, each of which must be no higher than level 2 and add them to your spellbook for free. In addition, whenever you gain access to a new level of spell slots in this class, you can add one wizard spell from the Illusion School to your spellbook for free. The chosen spell must be of a level for which you have spell slots. The reason why this is so good, because it doesn't increase our number of preparations. The reason why this is so good is this, because of Ritual Adept. Ritual Adept has always been a fantastic feature for wizards, but the update to Savant has made it better. And I'm going to show you here, once we finish our selections for level 4, I'm going to show you how. So the two spells I will select are Silent Image and Mirror Image. So those are both illusion spells, both good spells. Silent Image eventually will be an incredibly powerful spell once we get 14th level in Illusionist. But until then, I mean, we're an Illusionist. Silent Image is kind of the classic illusion spell. Doesn't cost a lot, and it's really good. And then Mirror Image got so much better in 2024 because now, in order to hit the image, they have to be able to hit you. So we're going to use our own armor class, and then if they hit us, then we roll to see if the mirror image is hit. It's also easier to remember. Before, you always had to remember what you had to roll on a d20, and it changed based on how many mirror images you had. That is no longer the case. Now what you do is you're going to roll a number of d6s equal to the number of images you have, and as long as one of them is a 3 or higher, then an image is hit. Then we're going to get Improved Illusions, and when we're talking about the 4 subclasses in the 2024 Player's Handbook for Wizard, I think this one is the best. It gives us Minor Illusion as a cantrip for free. Illusion spells no longer require verbal components. So anytime we cast an illusion spell, no verbal component. That means, we don't have to worry about things like silence spells. If we're trying to hide our actions, it's going to be easier. The range is also increased on our illusion spells. As long as an illusion has a range of 10 feet or more, then its range is increased by 60 feet. And this is on all illusions, including Minor Illusion. And finally, if we cast Minor Illusion, it is a bonus action, and we can create both sound and image with each casting. And I'll get back to this when I talk about what this character will be doing at level 4. It's also worth noting that Arcane Recovery is now giving us 2 levels of spells, so that's either a 2nd level slot or 2 1st level slots. And we're going to add 2 spells to our spellbook, and I recommend Augury, and I recommend Web. And then we need to change our spell preparations. So I just noticed something. So if you are using D&D Beyond, just so you know, I have Illusion Savant, and as I just did, I took Silent Image and Mirror Image. They do not show up on my list available for preparations. So I will be adding them manually. So just be prepared that if you're using D&D Beyond, whatever you select with your Savant feature, at least for now, you're going to have to just add it yourself. Not a big deal. There we go. They're both in there. All right, so now I can actually look at my preparations, and we're going to unselect Comprehend Languages and Detect Magic. We never needed them prepared in the first place, so let's unprepare them now because now we need those spots. And what we are going to do is we're going to add Silent Image as prepared, and we're going to add Web as prepared, and Mirror Image. So we have every spell now that isn't a ritual prepared. And if now I'm going to make my pitch about Wizards for the first time. I'll talk about it again as we go up in level. But if you were playing a sorcerer, let's imagine this was a sorcerer, and we had our 3 levels in sorcerer, and we took our dip for armor. Maybe we took it in, maybe we took it in paladin or something. But we got our armor dip, and then we also have our 3 levels in sorcerer. We would have our prepared spells, and it might look similar to the prepared spells we have here for the wizard. What we would not have are the rituals. And I want to just discuss just how good that is, because these aren't replacing anything. If you were a sorcerer, you would not have them. If you wanted to detect magic as a sorcerer, that would mean you wouldn't have the shield spell or the silent image spell or Tasha's hideous laughter. You would have to give something else up to get it. And when we look at the number of rituals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, if you want those, then you wouldn't really have spells to cast at all, would you? Not that you can select them all because these aren't all on the sorcerer spell list, but the point is that these are resources that are available for wizard, and they're not available for any other class in the same way. And so, what we really need to do is we need to think about these as class features. These are resourceless, free class features. You could just take away Ritual Adept from the wizard, and then you could instead say, hey, at level 1, you can understand or read any language given 10 minutes. Oh, and you can detect magic given 10 minutes. Oh, and you get a familiar. Oh, and you can identify magic items given 10 minutes. Oh, and you have telekinesis given 10 minutes, and you can maintain it for an hour. Oh, and you can ask a question to the DM, and they have to give you a response once per day. If you got all those features on any class and they were written as class features, like if the fighter had all these things, we'd be in disbelief. But we don't think of them as class features because all spellcasters get spells, and all spellcasters can cast rituals as rituals now. But it's still just incredibly powerful to be able to have these for free, and a huge number of them. Just think about the number of things we can do that other classes just will not be able to do. Like, sure, they might be able to fit on Detect Magic, but they're not fitting on all this stuff. And at level 4, we're going to have 4 first level spells and likely 4 second level spells, assuming we use our Arcane Recovery for a second level spell. The big play for our character now is the web spell. And Long Strider is also a good non-concentration upcast because we're probably not going to cast web 4 times. As is Cure Wounds. Cure Wounds is a good upcast as well. We need to cast Minor Illusion whenever our bonus action is available after we take our action. Now, I always suggest after, because if you are going to be casting a spell and then you're going to put up something that prevents sight, then that's a good defensive mode for you. But if you put up that thing that prevents sight first and then you cast a spell through it, you reveal it's an illusion. So I would recommend taking the bonus action afterwards, and I would recommend always do a sound as well. So, the most obvious thing you can do with Minor Illusion is block vision on you. You can see through your illusion, they can't. That's disadvantage on their attacks. And if we're like 30 feet away or so, it's not something that's going to be easy for them to interact with and give away. So, it is a good defensive feature. Also, if you are in melee and you just want to, let's say we try our Warhammer and we missed and we didn't push them and we're still in melee, we don't want to be in melee, we can do a bonus action, put up something, they can't see us, we can move away, no opportunity attack. These are the obvious uses. Obviously, you can come up with, maybe there's environment effects you could create. There's no way I can cover this. You have to be creative. Same thing goes for the sound, and I'd always use the sound because we get it for free. Might as well. Are additional enemies approaching? Do they think there's allies coming? Something, some kind of sound, some kind of image, round after round. And if it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything. But often you would think it would. Though there is a lot of, it's going to depend on your DM for some of this stuff. With the blocking of vision, it shouldn't. With everything else, how your DM responds will be varying from table to table, but it's worth a try regardless. Now, a lot of rituals are circumstantial. I'm not always going to be casting Comprehend Languages, but Augury we should cast every day. What happens with Augury is we suggest a course of action we might take, and the DM basically tells us whether it's a good idea or not. Why wouldn't you do this as often as you can? And if we ever use it more than once per day, then we get unreliable results. We don't want unreliable results. So I would just use it once per day, but I'd use it every single day. All right, so now we're going to put our wizard to level 4 and our character to level 5. This is the one that hurts a little bit because we would have 3rd level spells if we had gone straight wizard, and we are going to have to wait an additional level, but we are going to get our ability score improvement. And I think if you're going to play a spellcaster, it's hard not to take Warcaster at level 4, and that's not any different than it used to be. but it's maybe even harder than it used to be because now we're also going to get +1 intelligence. That brings our intelligence to 18. Plus, we get advantage on concentration saves. Plus, now if we do have our Warhammer out and our shield out, we can cast a shield spell. So, yeah, just an obvious feat for us to select. We're going to get additional cantrip, and you could take Acid Splash again, or you could take Mind Sliver, which is also a very good cantrip. And just keep in mind that as a wizard, you can change your cantrips after a long rest. So if you find that you're taking the cantrips I recommended and aren't getting good mileage out of them, switch them up. Then we're going to select 2 additional spells to go in our spellbook. The first one we're going to select is Tenser's Floating Disc. Tenser's Floating Disc can hold up to 500 pounds, and it just floats behind you, and it just carries all your junk with you. So if there's a bunch of treasure that you guys want to carry, you can carry more than the Barbarian now because you are a wizard. And the level 2 spell we're going to take is Dark Vision. Now, Dark Vision is lovely now. It gives you 150 feet of Dark Vision. So if we cast that on ourselves, and we have, like, even last level, we had, 4 second level slots? Lots of second level slots. So we can afford a Dark Vision, and now we can have more Dark Vision than the dwarf in the party. Or if we have other people without Dark Vision, we can help them out as well. And we get 1 additional preparation, so we're going to prepare Dark Vision. We don't need to prepare Tenser's Floating Disc because it is a ritual. So once again, we just see the character getting more and more powerful in rituals. There's just more and more and more of them being thrown on this character. So, if you compare prepared spells from caster to caster, that's one thing. But if we compare spells that can be cast by each caster, this character has 3 through Ranger, Cure Wounds, Jump, and Hunter's Mark. And then we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 first level or higher level spells. This is a 5th level character. Find me another 5th level character that can cast 17 level spells at level 5. So at level 5, you will have 4 first level spell slots. I would suspect 4 second level spell slots. You'll have 3, but you can recover 1, and 2 third level spell slots. So what would you do with your 3rd level spell slots? I would be upcasting Tasha's. You can hit 3 targets with Tasha's. I'll tell you what, I'll cast Hypnotic Pattern. And if I hit 3 targets, I'm usually happy with that. With Tasha's, I have no friendly fire, and I can hit 3 targets, and if they fail, they're out. Now, they get additional saves when they wouldn't with Hypnotic Pattern. Nevertheless, still pretty good use of a 3rd level slot. Or you might want to use one of them to cast Long Strider on 3 allies. That's pretty good. And if we are using web, just remember we can use our Warhammer, pop into melee, smack them, throw them into the web, and we no longer have to worry about juggling and making sure that Warhammer's out of our hands now because we have Warcaster. So let's look at level 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Wizard level 5. This is going to add a class feature we didn't used to get, and that is Memorize Spell. Whenever you finish a short rest, you can study your spellbook and replace one of the level 1 plus wizard spells you have prepared for your spellcasting feature with another level 1 plus spell from the book. The value we're going to get out of this is going to be largely based on how many additional spells we add to our spellbook through adventuring. From my base plan for spells, the spells that aren't prepared are generally ritual spells, so I wouldn't be using Memorize Spell to prepare them. But we'll probably get additional spells through adventuring, and ideally you want those to be, like, if I'm just deciding what to prepare, I want to not prepare spells that are circumstantial, and then when the circumstance comes up that I need that spell, that's when I would use Memorize Spell to prepare it. So since we are a 5th level wizard, we are now getting our first look at 3rd level wizard spells, which means Illusion Savant comes into play again. So we can select an illusion spell to add to our spellbook that is level 3 or lower. If we look at our level 3 spells for wizard that are illusion, we have Fear, Hypnotic Pattern, Major Image, and Phantom Steed. That's a great selection. So yeah, I almost hesitate to say what to take because there's almost no wrong answers here. These are great spells. I am going to suggest Hypnotic Pattern, but like I said, if you want to take Fear or Major Image or Phantom Steed, these are great spells. So don't be afraid to select whatever you want. And I also want to mention that Arcane Recovery will now allow us to recover a 3rd level spell slot. And so I know I need to add Hypnotic Pattern manually. And we're going to get 2 additional spells in our spell book. And I am going to recommend Leomund's Tiny Hut, so we can take rests and it's safe. It is technically nerfed slightly from 2014. It is still massively overpowered for a 3rd level ritual. Absolutely take Leomund's Tiny Hut. The difference between a party with Leomund's Tiny Hut and one without is dramatic. And in order to get Leomund's Tiny Hut, you need either a bard or a wizard, but only a wizard can take it without sacrificing a preparation for another spell. And then the other one we're going to take at this level is Lightning Bolt, and I'm not going to talk about it a lot in this video. I talked about it in my last video, why we might want to select Lightning Bolt instead of Fireball, and that's what I did on the character I was playing the one-shots as well. And we will get 2 additional preparations, and we have 2 non-rituals to prepare. It's almost like I planned it. So we've got Hypnotic Pattern and Lightning Bolt, and that uses up our preparation. So to our growing list of rituals, we now add Leomund's Tiny Hut, which is a fantastic ritual. So adding to the utility that this character provides to the party, we add Leomund's Tiny Hut. Then we're going to have Hypnotic Pattern, which is a big play with 3rd level spells. And Lightning Bolt, the one advantage of Lightning Bolt is if I'm doing something like Web, I can do Lightning Bolt and it doesn't use concentration. And so I can do some nice damage while keeping up that status effect. All right, so let's look at character level 7. So we're going to get our wizard level up to 6. And I want to talk about our new subclass feature, which is Phantasmal Creatures. All right, so the first time I recorded this, I did a terrible job explaining. I missed all kinds of stuff that I wanted to mention, so I'm re-recording here. But this is a pretty cool feature. It actually is like 4 features packed into one. So the first thing it's doing for us is basically there's 2 spells that are always prepared that we don't need to add to our spellbook. So I think technically speaking, they're not in our spellbook. They're always prepared. So we're getting 2 additional spells and we're getting 2 additional preparations. So that's 2 things. The third thing we're getting is we can cast them as illusions. And that's good for us because when we cast illusion spells, we don't have to use our verbal component, and we also get an additional 60 foot of range. So these normally have 90 foot of range, and now they'll have 150 foot of range. So we'll always cast them as illusions. There's no advantage to not casting them as illusions. And then the fourth thing they do for us is we will get a free casting of each of these spells. Now, when it comes to the free casting, if you cast them for free, you will get half hit points for that creature, and you will always cast at the base level. So for Summon Beast, that means we're casting it as a 2nd level spell, and for Summon Fey, we're casting it as a 3rd level spell. And if we want to do good damage with these kinds of summons, we need to be casting them as 4th level spells. They will still do damage, but the damage isn't very good. So for the free castings, I just want to mention that I probably wouldn't use them in combat very often. That doesn't mean I would never use them in combat. If I was like really low on spell slots, then I might use them. If I'm not concentrating on anything else, I might use them. They will do some damage. They do have some hit points, so if an enemy attacks them and kills them, that might be an attack that would have been at me or been at an ally. That's an advantage as well, even if they kill it with 1 attack. Another thing I might do is if there's like a hallway and I want to block enemies, I might throw them there, just a block movement. I might have them grapple an enemy or shove an enemy or grapple and drag an enemy. They can still do that even with only 1 attack on their turn. The other thing I might use them for is if I do the Summon Fey option, the Summon Fey, one of the options has a charm that it does as part of its bonus action when it teleports. It can still do that, and it's just as good at it as if I had cast it with a 4th level slot. So I might do it for that as well. But again, I probably wouldn't jump to these for combat because they are going to die very easily. If we get hit with a big area of effect, they'll probably just die from the area of effect, and they might not do anything after the turn that I cast them in. So I wouldn't jump to these in combat. I would use the free castings outside of combat, though. There is utility here. I can't give you every example, but let's just say, for example, we are looking at a hallway and we think it might be trapped and we're not sure it's safe. I can use one action. I can cast Summon Beast or Summon Fae. I can send them down there, and if something bad happens to them, guess what? There was a trap. And, I don't even feel bad about it because they weren't even a real creature. They were an illusion. So that's one way we might use it. Let's say there's brackish water and there might be some big bad enemy under there. Well, I can use an action and cast Summon Beast and send it down there and chomp, something horrible happened to it. Well, I guess there's something under the water. These kinds of things, we definitely have utility for them. They have an hour duration. You might as well use them. You might not get huge benefit out of them, but you'll get some benefit out of them. They're worth casting. But the main thing I'm going to be taking from this is Summon Fae over Summon Beast, because Summon Fae is the better spell. And I would be using maybe 4th level or higher slots to cast Summon Fae. Then it's pretty good, because Summon Fae on its own is a decent spell when cast with a 4th level slot or higher. Plus, we get enhancements because it's an illusion. And when I'm at this level, I've got 4th level spell slots, and I don't have 4th level spells. This is a really good option for upcasting that spell. And what you want to do with Summon Fae is, if you're attacking flying creatures, they can fly. They also can go in, they can teleport, and get out. And we are going to add 2 additional spells to our spell book, and I am going to add Counterspell. Counterspell has changed in 2024. I now have a fair amount of experience with the new Counterspell, and it's still a good spell. Not as good as it was, not necessarily a must-have. If you want to take something else, go ahead. But this character that I based this build on, when I was in Tier 3, I counterspelled a Meteor Swarm. That happened. Okay? So Counterspell, still very useful. And I'm going to grab Water Breathing. Water Breathing is a ritual. We cast it every day, and our entire party can breathe water all day. Very, very good spell. Nice ritual. Once again, we're just adding to what we can do with rituals. We get 1 additional prepared spell, so we prepare our Counterspell. And once again, everything that's not a ritual is prepared. So my recommendations for level 7 with this build is, number 1, use water breathing every day. Start the day with a water breathing ritual. Get everybody their water breathing, and then forget it until the next day, right? You might as well. If you don't need it, you don't need it. Didn't cost you anything, right? So just think about what we're adding to the party here. We're giving everybody water breathing every day. We're giving the free or the safe long rests, the safer short rests. We're giving the detect magics and the scouting and all these things. And we have expend 0 resources on all of them. Also at level 7, use your free summons. Use them. Use them in combat if you have an emergency and maybe you're low on spell slots and you need to do something, then at least use those. If not, use them out of combat for utility. And we have a 4th level spell slot. Use it for Summon Fae. Summon Fae is your best option with that 4th level slot. What happens with a 4th level spell slot and Summon Fae is they get a second attack. It basically doubles their damage. In fact, it technically more than doubles their damage because of how the damage is calculated. I think I should add in here that if we are to calculate the damage for Summon Fae at 4th level, assuming we choose the one that can do the charming, then it is going to be doing about 17.5 points of damage around. My baseline is 21.8 at level 7, meaning it's a little bit below baseline, but it's not using our action. It's using our action on the round we cast it. It's not using our action on following rounds. If we are to move in and hit with our Warhammer and a True Strike and just have our Summon Fae attack, then we're getting the push, we're getting the charm, and we're doing about 25 points of damage around, which is, about 15% over baseline as well. And wizards aren't really known for doing single target damage. That's not bad. So on to level 8. So we're now level 7 in Wizard. And we are going to get another Illusion Savant, another free illusion spell. And what will we take? We'll take Phantom Steed, which is a great ritual. And I would have loved to have had it on this build already. Couldn't afford it. Now I can. Phantom Steed. And we're going to get 2 additional spells in our spell book beyond the Phantom Steed. In fact, I just remembered I need to physically add Phantom Steed. So there it is. And then we're going to add 2 additional spells to our spell book. And the first one we'll pick is Dimension Door. I love Dimension Door. Dimension Door is that teleport where you don't need to see the destination and you can go a long ways and you can bring along somebody else and their size no longer matters. So Dimension Door, very good. The other spell I'm going to add is Divination. So what does Divination do? This spell puts you in contact with a god or a god's servants. You ask one question about a specific goal, event, or activity to occur within the next 7 days. The DM offers a truthful reply, which might be a short phrase or cryptic rhyme. The spell doesn't account for circumstances that might change the answer, such as the casting of other spells. If you cast a spell more than once before finishing a long rest, there is a chance it won't work or give you incorrect information, so don't do that. Cast it once every day. So you cast Augury every day, and you cast Divination every day. And you're just getting all kinds of information, even though we're not a diviner. And we add Dimension Door to our prepared spell list, and once again, we've used all our preparations. They're all on non-ritual spells, and every other spell in our spellbook is a ritual that we can cast at any time without expending spell slots. So we got Divination, Leomund's Tiny Hut, Phantom Steed. Oh, by the way, I forgot to talk about how good Phantom Steed was. Phantom Steed, you just cast it out of combat, get on it. You have 100-foot movement, speed mount. Water breathing, Divination, add Augury. We add Comprehend Languages, Detect Magic, Find Familiar, Identify, Tensor's Floating Disc, Unseen Servant. What other class offers you that level of utility, all resource free? So at level 8, we can now use our Arcane Recovery to recover a 4th level slot. That's probably what I would do, and that would give us 3 4th level slots to use. And Summon Fae, like I said, would be my primary use. That's a good combat spell. But Dimension Door is available as an emergency option. And add in, with our various rituals that we're using every day, add in Divination every day as well. We go to Wizard level 8, and this is character level 9. And now we are going to add another ability score increase. And what I am going to be adding is Resilient Constitution. Now, my Constitution was at 14. That means this is going to bring it to a 15, which is an odd number. That means later on, we're going to want to increase it to 16, or at least that's a good idea. But we want Resilient Constitution right now, even before we get our Intelligence score to 20. This takes our Constitution save from a +2 to a +6. That is a big difference. Then we're going to add 2 more spells to our spellbook, and I am recommending level 1. We don't have Alarm yet, so we might as well grab it. We have an extra spell to grab right now, so we'll grab Alarm. So we just increase our number of rituals, and we are going to add Autoluke's Resilient Sphere. Where are you? There you are. Very, very versatile spell. We can use it offensively to surround an enemy. We can use it defensively to surround ourselves, or we can use it to surround an ally. So very nice spell. Also, once we get contingency, Autoluke's Resilient Sphere is a very good candidate for contingency. So if you find yourself in a really bad situation, you get that around you as a defense. So obviously that is the spell we prepare, and then we are on to the next level. So we get to character level 10, and this is Wizard level 9. And what we're going to get at level 9, first off, our Arcane Recovery will allow us to recover up to a 5th level slot. We just got 5th level slots. We're going to get 1 additional one. Then we are going to get another Illusion Savant, and we're going to add another spell, and the spell we're going to add is Seeming. Seeming is a utility spell, and what it does is it allows you to do an illusion that has long duration, that does not use concentration, that disguises your entire party. We're an illusionist. This is the kind of thing that I think we would want to do. Now, I know I need to add Seeming manually, and then we're also going to add Wall of Force. I think this is the obvious. Wall of Force basically didn't change from the 2014 version, and it's a must-have for Wizards. Always has been, still is. And then we're going to take Rary's Telepathic Bond. This is another one of those ones that we are going to cast all the time. And now our party all have telepathy. So we all have telepathy with each other. We can all breathe water. We're asking the DM multiple questions every day. They have to give us truthful responses. We have safe long rests. Yada, yada, yada. All this stuff, all for free. And we get 2 additional preparations at this level. Seeming, Wall of Force, done. Once again, now we're level 10. We still don't have a single spell in our spell book that we can't cast at any time. So we're a 9th level wizard, which gives us 5th level spells, but because of our ranger dip, we're a 10th level character, which means we have 2 5th level spell slots, plus we can recover 1 after an arcane recovery, after a short rest. That means 3 5th level spells every day. Wall of Force, I think most people are familiar, but the main uses are you can trap an enemy with it, or you can sometimes block off multiple enemies with it. You can split up enemies. You can protect allies. You can block harmful environmental effects. You can make a bridge. You can make a roof. It's very versatile, very, very powerful. And then Seeming as a utility spell. But most of the time, I would probably be using my 5th level slots on Wall of Force. And I'm going to add 1 more level to this character here. And I'm going to be linking this character in the video description if you want to take a look and look up anything in the future. But at level 10, I do want to talk about this feature. Illusionists get Illusory Self. Illusory Self is exceptional. When a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to interpose an illusory duplicate of yourself between the attacker and yourself. The attack automatically misses you. Then the illusion dissipates. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. Now it also says you can also restore your use of it by expending a level 2+ spell slot, no action required. So what that means is, big monster comes, huge hit, wham, shield spell isn't going to work, Illusory Self, it misses. And then next round they come back and then wham, critical hit. Oh, damn, critical hit. Well, I'll mark off a 2nd level spell slot, it misses again. That's what it does. And one thing, if you have played into Tier 3, is you will probably be aware that monsters start getting attack bonuses that are really high. And even when you have a really good armor class, they start hitting you more often. Even when you have the shield spell, they start hitting you more often. Illusory Self is one of the few ways in the game you can just make sure they miss automatically. And you can do it over and over again. We have lots of spell slots, more than we need. Now, if a creature has multi-attack, then Illusory Self is only going to turn 1 hit into a miss. So if they attack you 4 times and they hit 3 times, Illusory Self is only preventing 1 of them. The shield spell might prevent 2 hits. So just keep that in mind when you use Illusory Self. When I want to use it is if a creature has big pluses to hit, and they're probably going to hit me with a shield spell anyway, well, Illusory Self, I can make 1 of those hits a miss. The second thing is if I get hit with a big critical hit, shield spell ain't going to help me at all. Illusory Self will. Then we add a couple more spells, and we are going to add, here we go, add spells, and we want a 5th level spell, and the one I'm recommending is Passwall. Passwall, I've talked about Passwall before. Passwall is an out-of-combat spell. This is not something you normally cast in combat, though you might, but normally you cast it outside of combat. So the idea is that you use your familiars and your divination spells and everything to kind of know where the enemies are and where the encounters are and where the challenges are, and you can use Passwall to bypass them. That room looks terrible. I don't want to go to that room. Well, I'll use Passwall, and now I don't need to go to that room. So Passwall, very, very nice spell. Not a combat spell, but a great out-of-combat spell. And I'll grab Magic Mouth. Magic Mouth is a ritual, and it's a utility spell. Once again, another utility spell. Basically, you set a trigger, and then a pre-recorded message occurs when the trigger occurs. And it lasts until it is dispelled. There are various ways to exploit this spell. I'll let you Google those if you want. But even if you don't exploit it, it's a useful utility spell and yet another ritual. And what I want to point out here is just how many rituals wizards have access to. Because I'm going to prepare the Passwall spell, and then let's just go through. So level 1, you can see what spells are prepared and which ones aren't. All these spells are available for casting for us at any time, and any of the ones that aren't prepared don't require spell slots. Then we go to level 2, same thing. Level 3, same thing. Level 4, same thing. Level 5, same thing. This character is half rituals. Half their spells are rituals. They're all good, and none of them require resource to cast or require preparation slot. And that is why I think Wizards is still the most powerful class in the game. Now we are at level 11, so we're at the beginning of tier 3. This is as far as I'm going to take this build, but I'm going to give some general advice beyond that. As we go into levels 12 and higher, we're going to start getting some spells into play that are broken or incredibly powerful. So Magic Jar, Simulacrum, what I recommend is when we get into these kinds of spells, know your table, know your group, know your DM, know what they're comfortable with, and make selections that they are comfortable with. You are going to be incredibly powerful regardless. You will inevitably end up with spells that aren't rituals that you can't prepare. That's going to happen, whether it's through copying spellbooks into your own, or just eventually we run out of rituals. So I recommend circumstantial spells that you might use Memorize Spell for as needed after a short rest. At level 14 in Wizard, at level 15 for this character, we will be able to use our bonus action to make our illusions real. So, you do a silent image of an adamantine box around an enemy or a cage around them, and then a bonus action to make it a real adamantine box. It's obviously ridiculously powerful. That's on the horizon. You don't always get there, but I don't think you need to get there with an illusionist for them to be good anymore. And you kind of needed to before, but I don't think that's the case anymore. Illusionist has so much going for it already. I would also recommend when you get to level 13 to raise your intelligence to 20. It's currently at 18, which is still fine. And then at level 17, I recommend getting your constitution up to 16. And I'd probably do that with something like maybe the speedy feat. And if you get to level 20 and you get an epic boon, I would recommend the Boon of Fate. And those are my recommendations for a 2024 wizard and for the wizard that I am currently playing. So as I said, I'm linking this in the video description. Let me know what you think. Let me know any suggestions that you think, if there's spells that I should have taken that I didn't take, or spells I did take that I shouldn't have taken. Let me know. Otherwise, till next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.